specifically pregnant ladies and little kids better get the hell out of the way because I am running. I'm like Forrest Gump, dude. I am running. So the Titanic was the biggest ship on the ocean, but that didn't mean it was unsinkable. Okay.
I want you each to use ombudsman in a sentence next week.
I got one for you. My name is Kevin, the official ombudsman of the Just Press Play podcast. You like apples?
All right, welcome into another edition of the Just Press Play pod. We are getting set. I'm here with LJ and Pops as always, and guys, finals are getting ready. Stanley Cup finals, NBA finals, they're both set.
Yep. Yeah.
Yep.
I thought you were talking about class finals, and I just had like a nightmare.
It's funny. It's funny, and you might have this too. Like I've now been graduated for a little while. I haven't taken tests or anything, but there will be mornings where I'll wake up. You mentioned that where I just know I'm forgetting something. Like I either didn't get a paper submitted or something, and it takes like a good 5 minutes for me to realize, okay, I'm not in school. There's no way I missed a paper.
I have a very specific dream that comes out at around this time or around late winter. Every single time we hit one of those. And specifically, it's that there's a class that I've got a final for tomorrow that I haven't been to a single day of because I forgot about it as soon as I signed up for it. And so I've got it. And so like you said, I spend 5 minutes thinking, how am I going to deal with this? Do I email the teacher? Do I just show up and try to take the test before it finally hits me like, oh, right. I'm not in college. Okay.
Yeah. Then you realize, I swear, and I think this, I don't know when you finally get to the age that it quits happening, but there'll be a dream or something. And I'll just know that I have a paper I missed.
I was about to say, Dad,
I can tell you, the age is higher than 54. I can tell you that because I'm 54 and but I have one little twist on it. I have dreams and I still have them, probably not as often, but 3 times a year, where I show up and I'm taking a test and I'm wearing my tidy whities. For whatever reason, I forgot to get dressed. I still have that dream that I'm sitting in class taking a final in my tidy whities. I mean, not boxer briefs, not boxers, tidy whities. That's what I'm doing.
That's funny.
Oh man, that's hilarious.
Still have that.
Well, someone's dreams actually became a reality over the weekend where our man Drake was dreaming about the Raptors maybe making the finals one day. And they have finally made the first finals in team history.
Wow.
Yep. So that what's up?
Some required listening. This is unrelated to the game really, but 99% Invisible is a podcast about like the subtle design choices in the world around us. And they did an entire episode over the 90s Raptor jerseys. And it is a phenomenal.
That big ass dinosaur on the chest.
Oh yeah, the purple dinosaur, the old Barney running around. And yeah. A whole episode, 99% Invisible about the Toronto Raptors. I'll try to make sure we get a link on the show notes, but that's required listening for this week in honor of the first.
Okay.
You'll see this. I know everyone's talking about Drake, and Drake we'll get into a little bit, I think, about how Drake's going to be all over the place for these finals. But the biggest Raptors fan is not Mr. Aubrey Graham, but it's Nav Bhatia. I think it's a guy. You'll see him at some point in the games. He wears a turban. He's been living in Canada for a while, and he made his fortune off cars.
Car thinking about it.
And he has gone 23 straight years, and he has never missed or been late to a Raptors home game in 23 seasons.
That's wild.
Wow. And I was
he even matches the turban with the uniform. This dude's rocking it.
Yeah, you'll see him at some point in the game when that's Nav, and he's a really cool dude. And he talks about how the Raptors have unified Canada and how all the different it was kind of neat what I heard him talk about, how the Raptors do the Jurassic Park, where all the people go outside the stadium and they can all watch the game together. And he talks about how that kind of unified and showed diversity, because all these people got together, all these younger Canadians got together and realized, oh, I like this white Canadian, this black Canadian, this Indian Canadian. They all have a common interest. We're all just people and we like the Raptors. And now it brought a whole group together. And that was kind of in the past 5 or 6 years since Jurassic Park got built. And he talks about how it's really been brought a lot of diversity and inclusion to the area. It's really cool. But
very cool.
He goes to I just can't believe the dude's been to 23 straight seasons of Raptors games and never missed.
He goes to
that
every
is 41 games a year. Every home game. He says he's never been late. And he says it has he says it has forced him to miss a few special events in life. He's like, well, when his anniversary happens to fall on a Raptors home game, he says, he's like, well, it's my anniversary too. And he says nowadays, I was reading an article about him, and he says nowadays that people actually know, there's a Raptors home game that day, so Nav won't be there. He will not be making whatever event this is. So you got to think, my man has got to be happy. The Raptors they made, as you said earlier, made the finals for the first time in team history. And actually, they had a little interesting, I might throw some trivia at you. I'd be shocked if you get all these. But the Raptors advancing leaves only 6 of 30 teams have never made an NBA finals. Can you name the 30 teams?
How many?
The 6 teams. The 6 teams.
So, is it like franchises?
Yes, it's franchises that are all still franchises to this day.
Okay.
Sacramento comes to mind.
Actually, Sacramento is in the longest drought. They have not made the finals in 69 seasons.
But they have made it.
They made it in 1951. I don't know who was there, but they made it in 1951.
Wow. All right. LA Clippers.
Clippers they have not been in 49. They haven't been at all in their 49-year history, the longest team.
Milwaukee Bucks.
No, I think they made it with Kareem at some point.
Oh, wow. Yeah. You're going way back. The Pelicans, I guess you'd say the Pelicans, of course, the Charlotte Hornets, Hornets.
Yeah.
Vancouver, but they're not even, is Vancouver, are they still around?
But it's Memphis now, but yeah.
Yeah. The Grizzlies.
Okay. So Memphis. I'm missing one, right?
You got two more.
Oh boy, I'm starting to. You're gonna have to help me. Give me a little hint or something. No, no. Jeez.
You lived in one of these. You lived in one of these towns before.
The Nuggets, Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, the Denver Nuggets in 43. And then the last one is I don't know a good hint, so I'll just tell you.
All right.
It was the Minnesota Timberwolves. They have not yet made the finals.
Yeah, that should have got that one probably. Yeah.
They didn't make it once with KG back in the day?
Nope, they got close. But never made it. And that's when
never made it.
KG ended up leaving. But so interesting that the Raptors now can take their name off that list, which I'm sure they're happy about. But I wanted to ask you, Dad, how good, how much are we going to remember this Kawhi Leonard run? He's been putting on a tear. I have some stats for you, but I just want to throw that to you first.
Well, the thing that has stuck out most to me with Kawhi Leonard is his 3-point shooting. He has really developed a good 3-point shot, and it's not the most beautiful thing I've ever seen by any stretch, but it's not Magic Johnson ugly. Sorry. Magic Johnson's great, but he had an ugly shot. But obviously once he's hitting that 3, by the way, at 38.3% for his career, 37.1 or 5% this season, which by the way, I just looked, I thought 37.5% from 3 was good. That puts him at 65th in the NBA. That's only good for 65th best 3-point shooting percentage. But I didn't get to watch the last 2 games, Kevin. I was kind of going to rely on you some, but apparently they switched him over to defend Antetokounmpo, and it made a well of a difference. So tell me what happened. Did he just shut him down? He's not as tall as Antetokounmpo, right?
No, and he is one of the premier defenders in the NBA. We talked about, I think a couple weeks ago, back when the Spurs beat the Heat in the finals, and Kawhi Leonard wasn't the scorer that he is today, but really gave LeBron fits. And he's always been a great perimeter defender. And part of what they did, I thought that was so smart, is a lot of teams, Giannis doesn't really have a jump shot. It doesn't really have a 3. So teams would back way off and pretty much be in the paint. And I get why you would think that, but that was giving Giannis time to get ahead of steam as he drove, because no one's stopping him from getting into, at least to the free throw line. And at that point, now you got this guy that if he gets to the free throw line, he's a step away from dunking on you. He's just got such long legs.
Yeah.
And so what the Raptors did was Kawhi picked him up, all the way, not at half court, but from 3-point line on, it was guarding the whole way. So he didn't have that clear vision, that clear path.
Lane.
And then they just would wall off everything. And it kind of happened to where a lot of those guys around Giannis were good. Middleton, Brogdon, Ilyasova, Brook Lopez, they're not bad, but they're just not stars. And the Raptors decided if they'll beat us hitting 3s, they'll beat us, but we're not going to lose to Giannis Antetokounmpo. And it worked.
And they didn't.
Can I read something?
Yeah, go ahead.
So I found this on the Milwaukee Bucks subreddit yesterday. It got posted by a guy named Pac-Man Wissy. And the post is called "Giannis got exposed last night." And here's the body of the text. Yesterday, we saw the formula for stopping Giannis. All you need is one of the best perimeter defenses of all time, a former defensive player of the year at center, 2-time leader in blocks at power forward, and another good defensive power forward to double team and triple team him for 48 minutes. That way Giannis will be limited to only 22, 13, and 5 for an entire series. So all you need is 4 all-time great defenders, and Giannis is forced to average something around elite center averages. Damn, they really got us. I don't know why other teams didn't use their 3 former Defensive Player of the Year candidates to triple team Giannis. Look for other teams in the future to do that and totally stop the Greek freak.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up because that is what I think does get lost. Well, one, this does mean the Bucks and Giannis need to go back to the drawing board because if nothing else showed him, this shows him if he goes and gets a 3-point shot and really gets a good jump shot, he's going to be unstoppable, like something like we've never seen before. But people kind of, I think, are losing sight of the Raptors, like LJ mentioned in that Reddit post. They're one of the best defenses in the NBA. I think they allowed 100 points in one postseason game all this postseason. And with the way scoring is nowadays in the NBA, keeping someone under 100 is pretty impressive. And Kawhi Leonard is maybe the best perimeter defender. Danny Green at one point was one of the premier perimeter defenders. Marc Gasol has been a defensive player of the year multiple years. Serge Ibaka is a good defender. Pascal Siakam's a really good there's just a ton of good defenders on that team. And yeah, they did shut Giannis down to 22 and 13 and 5. So he needs a lot. He needs to get better and he needs to improve, but he's still 24 years old and there's still a long way to go.
Well, and look at what's the difference between him and Kawhi. A little bit. Kawhi has developed that outside shot, which what does that? I mean, that opens up the space. So now you don't get out on me on the 3-point shot and I'll knock it down, or get out on me and I'm fixing to drive around you and dunk on your ass. I mean, he's unstoppable.
Well, and that's what. And you mentioned it kind of off the top, and that's where, if you're a Bucks fan, you have some hope if the guy gets in the gym. But I think this is where Kawhi deserves some credit. The way his game has changed from when he got into the NBA to now it's amazing. He got in the NBA, was just basically a defender, and people thought that's all he's going to be, is just a defender. And he went from, I was just looking at his playoffs per game averages since he got into the NBA. The first year it went from 8, the next year 13, the next year 14, the next year 20, 22, 27, and then 31 this year. This year he averaged, so far in the postseason, averaging 31, 8.8 rebounds and 3.8 assists on 50% shooting. So it's just incredible that the way his game's changed. And I think that gives some credit to some of these guys. It's just, there's guys that are good and then there's guys that improve every single summer. And Kawhi's one of those guys that he has there's something that he's improved on his game every year.
Yeah.
And an interesting stat I saw from him is, the only guys to play a minimum of 12 games in the playoffs and average at least 30 points, 8 rebounds, shoot 50% from the field, and have a 25 plus efficiency rating. Kawhi ended it so far as a 28.5, but to have 25 plus here's the list of names. LeBron James has done it 4 times. Shaq has done it 3 times. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar has done it twice. Wilt Chamberlain has done it once, and Kawhi Leonard has done it once now. Pretty impressive list to put him on.
Impressive company. Yep.
I think I don't think we'll get into if we think they even have a chance at the Warriors, but regardless, this run that he has made has solidified him. He might not be the best player in the NBA, but there's an argument for him to be the best player in the NBA right now. And all I could think about watching that game was they showed Kyle Lowry, who's been with the Raptors when they couldn't beat the Cavaliers and they couldn't win, they couldn't advance, and they kept going and kept going and kept going. And finally they were winning. He looked so happy and looked just the looks on everyone's faces. They finally got over the hump and got to the finals. And all I could think about is, man, this has to hurt DeMar DeRozan watching this.
Yeah.
Because Kawhi Leonard in 1 year, it's like we forgot DeMar DeRozan's even was at the Raptors. And we talked about how that Nav Bhatia brought up how the past 5 or 6 years have really brought together a bunch of Canadians and brought together this Raptor fan base. And a lot of that is due to DeMar DeRozan.
That was DeRozan.
Yeah.
And he got traded basically straight up. I mean, him and Pirtle for Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard. And Kawhi Leonard has just showed there's the next step. There's a next level. And Kawhi Leonard's now taking him to the finals. And it's just, I felt bad for DeMar DeRozan because it does have to hurt. He probably feels happy for some of his guys, but he has to hurt seeing this team succeed without him.
Yeah. Well, and I looked, he had played 9 years in Toronto. So I think he was drafted by them. And I don't know if was he drafted by them or?
Yeah, he was drafted in Toronto.
Okay. So he's drafted in Toronto, played 9 years. 1 year in 16-17, he averaged over 27 points a game. I mean, DeRozan was he's a damn good ball player. He's just not Kawhi Leonard level. He's just not. Not many are.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it's just, I couldn't believe it. I just felt bad for him. And it is funny. I mentioned Drake. I saw this tweet on on Twitter at some point, and I think it was from their at Lake Show Yo. It's like a Lakers Twitter. But it said LeBron went 710 straight days without losing a playoff game to the Raptors. Because if you remember, he swept them every single year. He went 710 straight days without losing a playoff game. He leaves for a second. Now they're in the NBA Finals. The East, you got to do better. But here's the question, Dad, and this is LJ's favorite thing. Well, let's go into this. Do the Raptors have a chance against the Warriors, in your opinion?
They have a chance. And
Kevin Durant will not play game 1, by the way. We don't know when he will play again, but he will not play game 1.
Well, I looked at this a little bit. Toronto has the home court advantage, by the way.
Yeah. And
so what does that mean? That means they get 2 games and then they go to LA and then they come back.
Game 7, if they don't do the 2-3-2. It is 2-2, 1-1-1 now, isn't it?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
But game
Ever
7.
since the Heat cheated the Mavericks, they switched that 2-3-2.
That is about the time. Yes.
That might
is
be the
about
last finals playoffs that I really cared that much about. And I've just shut down since then. So maybe that's the.
But I do think it's really interesting. The 2nd seed in the East now has home court advantage over the number 1 seed in the West, because they won one more game in regular season. I didn't know that it flipped like that, actually. I thought the 1 seed would have the home court advantage.
It's just the best record. Whoever has the better record.
It's the best record. Now, also, by the way, I'm sure you probably know this, Kevin, but Toronto won both regular season games, just for what it's worth.
One of those games Steph Curry wasn't playing. One of those games Steph Curry didn't play and Durant was playing, and it was a really great game. Went to triple overtime, and Durant scored 51 and Kawhi had 38 or something. It was a great game. But the other game, then the other one's weird. They went to Golden State and everyone was healthy, and the Raptors beat them by 19. It was one of those weird games. The Warriors had a couple of games where they got blown out at home, and it just is very uncharacteristic. But yeah, they played them twice and beat them twice. That says something at least.
Yeah. So, and then I look let's go quickly on through this. The guards, who has the advantage? In my opinion, Golden State. I mean, Curry and Thompson.
No doubt.
No doubt about it. At forward, you got to give that to Toronto. I think you got to give it.
Especially with Durant.
Especially with Durant's out. Now having, by the way, Draymond Green and Iguodala to help defend Kawhi Leonard, that helps. That's going to help a lot. Center, I gave that to Toronto because of Gasol. I think Gasol is playing really good now.
Which I'm really happy to see Marc Gasol.
I am too.
In the playoffs. I've loved his career.
Now, if there's talk that Cousins could come back, if old Boogie comes back, that does change that dynamic a little bit. So, fine, getting close to the end here. The bench, I would give that a little bit to Toronto with Ibaka, and Van Fleet and Powell, who I hadn't watched much, but I read a little bit.
Van Fleet, the last 3 games, I think he shot 14 from 17 from 3. He was in a big playoff slump, and he credits getting out of his slump to his baby being born. His son was born, and ever since he hadn't missed a 3. He was like, I just need to have more kids, apparently.
So, coach. I mean, I'm going to say Nurse has really handled his first year at Toronto amazing. But I'm sorry, Kerr gets the nod at this, at coach. Yeah. And then overall, I would give it to Golden State by experience, coaching, and the guards. The distance between those, the ones Toronto won, they won by a nose. The one that Golden State won of those categories, they won by secretariat-like level. So, by links. So Golden State's going to win the series. And I had a little naive young man, good friend of mine, that bet me $100 that that Toronto would win. And I said, "Are you serious?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Okay." And so we bet $100 on it.
Well, will this naive young man make another bet? Because I could use an extra $100. I'm hoping for a good series. I'm with you though. I just don't think Golden State's just much better. But kind of what I think will be interesting moving past this finals is what the impact this series has on Kawhi Leonard's decision, because the Raptors traded for him last offseason knowing he had a year left on his contract, knowing that supposedly he wanted to go to LA, whether it be the Lakers or Clippers. So the rumor was that he wants to go to LA. He's from California. And they went ahead, Masai Ujiri went ahead and traded DeMar DeRozan, who we talked about is a franchise player for the Raptors. They had him under contract. He's a good player, but they went ahead and decided we'll trade him and we'll get Kawhi Leonard, even if it means 1 year, and we'll just test it and see how it goes. Obviously, I think already it shows it was worth. Yeah, it's a success. They made it to the finals for the first time ever. I think it's a success, and I think this is what's interesting. We saw the the Thunder do this with Paul George, where Paul George really wanted to go to LA, but then he spent a year in Oklahoma City and ended up really liking it, and he signed a contract to stay. Now, all of a sudden, Kawhi Leonard's really building some memories in Toronto. That crowd was insane game 6. Yeah. He's already hit the biggest shot they've ever in their franchise history with that buzzer beater game 7.
Yeah.
And the fans just adore him. I mean, he's getting loved. I just think at some point it's going to get harder and harder for him to, at one point, I think it was going to be, I'll stay at Toronto for a year and then I'll go to LA. But all of a sudden, these are not just like somewhat memories. These are lifetime memories, brotherhood memories where regardless, he'll remember this forever. And I think it will make leaving a lot harder than it maybe he thought it would be 6 months ago.
Well, I want to ask you this. Doesn't it tell me a little bit about how the salary structure works? Has he been at Toronto long enough that he's eligible for that super max deal, or can they pay him more than anybody else? I guess is my question.
They can pay him more than anyone else because either way they'll have bird rights, so they can pay him that extra year. I don't know exactly what his will be with the super max stuff since he hasn't been there the whole time.
Okay. I didn't know how exactly that worked, but okay.
I just think I think this will play. I don't know. This whole playoffs, I was like, yeah, he'll leave. Either way, he's still going to LA. But I don't know. You keep doing this and all of a sudden it gets more and more. And who knows? I mean, what if they almost beat the Warriors? They could have a shot at beating the Warriors. It really is funny. You mentioned revisionist history earlier. What if Zaza Pachulia doesn't stick his foot out 3 or 4 years ago, whatever it was, when the Spurs were playing the Warriors and Kawhi Leonard and the Spurs in game 1 were up 20 points on the Warriors. Yeah. And then Leonard rolls his ankle. It doesn't return and they lose. I mean, maybe Kawhi is a really special player and maybe he would have beat the Warriors. Maybe he can beat the Warriors this year. And
that's a good point, Kevin. Yeah.
If he wins the finals, it'd be really hard to leave Toronto if you win the NBA final. We've never seen that, I don't think, a star leave after winning.
You know, I've never been to Toronto, and I imagine in the summer it is probably a little slice of heaven.
Probably.
But probably year-round, L.A., Toronto, I don't think I'd have a problem making a choice there. And then shout out to all our Toronto listeners. But the winter would be tough on this Southern boy. It'd be tough.
I'd take it.
Yeah, and that's what...
Yeah, LJ would like it, but
it'd be cool. I know just watching those games, and we'll see it in the finals, but that home crowd, I mean, those fans, I think all fans love their team, whatever, but it seems to be something special with the Toronto fans. I think you could easily talk yourself into, I could play here. I could be a part of this and build this for the future. And I think the Raptors jerseys are really cool. I like everything about the Raptors I've always kind of liked. And I like the old throwback, the Vince Carter jerseys LJ was talking about with the dinosaur on the front. I mean,
invisible.
It's cool stuff. The big winner though of all this has to be Drake, right? I mean, he's going to be shown on camera over and 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 over again, right?
Yes. Yeah.
We'll probably get a new album too coming up soon about him being his Raptors making the finals. Who knows? Last thing on free agency, at least with this group, Dad, do you think, is there any chance that Kevin Durant has now already played his last game in Golden State?
I think there's a chance. Yeah, I really think there's a chance. And even if he does play, I do think he's gone. I think they're going to part ways and they're going to be somewhat amicable. But the more I see how this is going, I think he may have played his last game already.
I think it could be fascinating if Golden State goes into Toronto, wins the first 2 games on the road. So they're up 2-0. They're now, 7-0 since Kevin Durant's been out.
Yep.
And now does Kevin Durant come back? Does he go ahead and sit and see if they win without him? Because it's almost like a lose-lose situation.
This is how you get Tony Romo to retire, Kevin. We've seen this before.
Saying,
the answer is put your good players out there.
What I'm saying is if he comes back game 3, I know he's already tired of hearing are the Warriors better without him. But if he comes back game 3 and all of a sudden it gets a little stagnant and they were to lose a game or something, I could see him maybe going, y'all just go ahead and win this ring for us. I'm going to head to New York after this.
If Kevin Durant wants to sit, I don't want him on my team. And if the coach doesn't play him, then I don't think I want that coach either. I think you play your best players.
I think you play your best players. You put KD out there. I just think it could be fascinating if all of a sudden KD comes back and that offense sputters again and it doesn't look as fun. The Splash Bros and everything. I don't know if he's played his last game, but I think he's gone I think he's out of town after this.
I do too. And it's clear, like we said last week in our pod, that the offense is different. The offense is different for Golden State with Durant in the game. And that offense is clicking and rolling. Well, last game I saw it was.
Yeah, they got a lot of rest. They've been, and you know, maybe LJ, if he's got, they say it's a strained calf. I don't really know what that means, but if it's like you can return, but there's a possibility at popping that Achilles, even if it's a small possibility, the guy's about to go into free agency. I'm not saying sit out just to sit out, but if there's a reason to,
but he might have load management issues for the next couple of years, and he doesn't want other teams to.
He could.
So speaking of free agency, I wanted to get into you guys a little bit. We're not going to really break down I know LJ's pumped about this. We're not going to break down the All NBA voting and who got first and second team as much. You can go find that content elsewhere. I don't know if you're coming to us for all of that, but I want to talk about how much the All NBA voting impacts a player's either impending free agency with his current team or leaving to go to a different deal. And recently we talked about it before, and it's the difference between max and supermax. And as we've seen in recent history, guys like LeBron and Kevin Durant, the max contract, the bird right, that 1/5 year for $25 million or $30 million wasn't enough to keep someone. They went ahead and signed 4-year deals because the dollar amount wasn't that much different. It was just an extra year, and these guys betted on themselves to go ahead and leave their current team. So the NBA came up with a supermax contract, which then allows a contract to go basically instead of 30% of a team's total salary, which is a max deal, the supermax is 35%. So, and I'll get into how much how much money that ends up making. But the way a player qualifies to be a supermax, not anyone can get that. You have to either have been named to an All NBA team in the most recent season before your contract runs out, or have been named to a Defensive Player of the Year award, or been named an NBA MVP. So it tries to whittle it down to where the supermax only goes to the top echelon talent, so teams don't overpay guys that really aren't worth it. So for example, how it is impacting guys this offseason. Kemba Walker with the Charlotte Hornets, his contract is now up. And since he made All-NBA, I think it was third team, he now has the chance at making a max deal would be 5 years, $190 million from Charlotte. But since he made the max, the All-NBA, he now can get a super max, which is 5 years, $221 million. So for him to leave and go sign with a new team, he could only sign with 4 years, $141 million, because he couldn't sign that super max deal with the team he would leave to go with. So if he wanted to go play in LA with LeBron, he would have to sign for 4 years, $141 million. That means he leaves $80 million on the table to leave Charlotte. So the supermax is supposed to entice him to stay. And I get that. That makes sense. And I think you kind of do want to keep stars there. But where it seems to not make a whole lot of sense to me is Klay Thompson, on the other hand. We mentioned him with the Warriors earlier. He got the other end of this deal where he was hoping his contract goes up at the end of this year. And I think whether you believe what he said and what's been said, he wants to stay with the Warriors and he wants to make as much money as possible. Curry already got his supermax deal. And so Klay's kind of wanting to cash in on his years there. And this year he failed to make an All-NBA team first, second, or third, which means 6 guards got voted over him, which means he will not be able to make that supermax deal. So he can sign a deal for $190 million, but he won't be able to make that 5 years, $220. So in essence, by not making an All-NBA team, he missed out on $30 million. So I guess my question is, does that seem right? Does the NBA voters, the vote, it goes to 100 NBA writers and media members are the ones who vote on this. And they basically decided that he won't make $30 million. And there's a video we'll post in the show notes of Klay Thompson learning about this in real time. A reporter tells him it's kind of tough to watch. It really is. I saw someone say this, and it's like watching a guy lose $30 million in real time, because they say, what is your reaction to not making the All-NBA team? And he was like, oh, I didn't make it. And they're like, no, you missed out on it. Russ and Kemba were third team over you. And he just basically said, I've made it to 5 straight NBA finals. I feel like I must be pretty good if we've made it to 5 straight NBA finals. I don't know. You tell me if there's 6 guards better than me. I don't know. If I'm a writer, I don't want the responsibility of maybe a guy losing $30 million on my vote. What is your thought about all that, Dad?
Somebody's got to vote on it. I think the only way you'd make that better is somehow make the players vote for the All-Stars and put it in the players' hands. But still, that could become somewhat of a popularity contest. But most elections are a popularity contest. Somebody's got to be the deciding factor. I will say this about Klay, and I mean, I think it's clear on here what I think about Klay, but he is not a guy when it gets dirty, and we might have talked about this some last week. I don't think he needs help to get his shot off. He's got to run, get clear, get a good pass, off a cut. He's not, he can some, but he's just not a go-to guy, get your shot off kind of guy.
Do you remember us talking about Game 6 against the Rockets where Steph Curry couldn't make a shot to save his life, and who saved the Warriors in the first half?
He did. But would you agree? Would you say that? I mean, more often than not,
maybe,
Clay needs a good
we
pass.
also don't know. We also don't know. He hasn't been on a team where
KD has been there.
It.
Well, that's true. I think there aren't 6 guards better than him. I hate that happened because I think he deserves to get paid. I think he is part of as good a backcourt as I've ever seen, maybe arguably the best backcourt in the history of the NBA. I think that's worth discussing.
Yeah.
And I hate he didn't make that all NBA team. He didn't get that 30 mil, but
and I think it kind of shows the epitome of how good a teammates he is, because he completely embraced Kevin Durant coming and gave up shots and gave up statistics, and that he hasn't made an All-NBA team since Durant got there. And it's not that Klay Thompson has gotten any worse. It's that he's realized, our team can be that much better if we add an MVP. And he's allowed that. He's been selfless enough to allow that to happen, as Steph Curry has done. And I just think I feel bad for him for not making it. But the interesting thing I pointed out, the part that I don't like is we don't even really know what the criteria is for All-NBA. Like if you're a voter, some voters are big on, they want you to, they don't like load management. They're like LJ. They don't want you to rest when you're healthy, and they want to see you play 80 games, or maybe they want to see you score 25 points a game, or maybe they want you to be the most valuable to your team. We get the argument every year of when we talk MVPs, who's better and who's more valuable. I just think it's also subjective and objective in these guys. These media members are really determining a lot of guys' salary. And then I looked at it. So it's voted on by 100 different media members. Therefore, Clay could have paid all 100 of those members $100,000, and he actually would have still came out a positive $20 million on the deal. When are we going to start getting bribery? I mean, if I'm a writer, I'm just saying, at any point, if anyone's listening to this, if I ever become a voter for All NBA, you can buy my vote. You can buy my vote.
I will just say you just lost your vote now by saying that forever. Podcast.
Forever.
You got to be a little bit more subtle, but
well, hey, but look at this. Look at Clay. I'm sorry, LJ. Let me say this real quick and I'll be done. Look at Clay's trade-off. Clay, I would definitely make $180 million and have 5 championships over making $230 and maybe not having any. I know that's not the difference we're making here, but that still makes up for about $30 million, I would say, the 5 championships. And he's going to make that money. He's going to make some of that up just in the Bay Area if he wants. So I would take that trade. I would. I know it's a lot of money, but $180 million, I could do without 30 if I just had to.
So what's fascinating to me about it is the way it implicates his free agency, because if he was available for that Supermax, like we talked about with Kemba, for him to leave, if he wanted to leave and say, go play with LeBron, or maybe, my pipe dream comes true and he comes to the Mavericks or something. If that were to happen before, if he was eligible for the Supermax, he would have to leave, just like Kemba, $80 million on the table. Now he still has to leave a fifth year, or that fifth year of $50 million. So he still has to leave a lot on there. But if he bets on himself and thinks he'll get another contract after this, I think it could make him more at least open to the thought of leaving, where before, if we're talking 5 years, $221 million,
you're not going.
Give me the dotted line. Give me the pin. Here we go.
And that makes you wonder. Now I'm curious to how many LA writers specifically vote on this. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because in theory, an LA writer who wants him on the Lakers can try to play the chess game, can try to use chaos as a ladder, and move a great player to their team by making sure that they're not going to have to put money on the table to get there.
And that's the thing, is there's motives behind it. Just like with that, or if it got, like, say someone just one day got into and I don't think this would happen with Clay, because it seems like Clay's universally liked, but say someone like Kyrie Irving got into a little spat with a writer. Is that one thing, like, now that writer doesn't like you as a person, even if he thinks you're the best point guard in the NBA, he might not vote you. And now that means you might not make that money. It seems silly.
Well, and so shout out to John for also doing a ton of research on this a long time ago. And we never used it in the show, but one thing he found, that I think is interesting is, like, being on a good team gives you that opportunity a lot more often than not. 93% of players who have made All NBA teams, Defensive Player of the Year or MVP, come from a playoff team. for the past like 10 or so years. And so that to me would imply that being on a good team is more valuable than being a good player, which is kind of interesting that it's played the opposite for Clay. But I think another thing that I wanted to throw out, a thought I had, is that I don't understand why it has to be subjective. Like, why can't it be like, I like, do you guys have a thought for why it needs to be voted on at all? Like, why do these guys need to be all NBA players to earn a Supermax?
Well, so the reason they do it is because they don't want dumb teams to screw themselves over by overpaying a star to stay there, which you're not.
That's a terrible rule.
Yeah, if you want to be a dumb team, be a dumb team. I don't like it.
Because what happens, and just playing devil's advocate here, if which the Wizards now did this because John Wall made an All NBA team, and so instead of letting him walk, they signed him to the Supermax deal, and now it looks like his Achilles is falling off, and who knows if he'll play again or be the level again. But if you're the NBA, now the Washington Wizards, that franchise is in purgatory for the next 5 years. You might lose fandom, you might lose ticket sales, you might lose it. They want each team to be as successful as possible. But I'm kind of with you, LJ. We don't need to put training wheels on it. These are grown men, and women who made a ton of money, bought this team.
So there's this thing in Mario Kart, where
anytime we can bring up Mario Kart, I'm in.
Yeah.
But your car actually drives faster if you're in 8th place than if you're in 1st place.
It's 100% true. Anyone that doesn't believe that's lying to themselves.
Well, it's a fact. And you also get better items. So the point of Mario Kart is to add chaos and make sure that the race is close no matter whether you're closely competitive or not. Or at least that's the attempt. But what ends up happening is the good players don't tend to have quite as much fun. And I think that's what this rule seems to be to me is if your whole goal is to make sure that the owners that aren't smart enough to use their lightning bolt at the right time, like don't give them the rubber banding. Don't let them catch up. Like, make sure that the fans want that person out of the ownership role. Okay. They have to give up GM responsibilities.
To that point, though, the Warriors were geniuses in the way they drafted and signed and structured their cap. And they got a little lucky too. And they built an amazing team. And all we've done, or a lot of us have done, is complain the last 4 years about how the Warriors made themselves unbeatable. So if we let the good teams just be good.
That didn't come up until KD signed with them, really, did it? I mean, we weren't hating on them until KD signed.
Pretty much. You're right.
But that's because the NBA has these stupid medley rules where all of the contract negotiations are based on some other factor. Like the fact that KD could even sign with them was based on some weird, stupid rules from 4 years ago that didn't get properly managed. Like their contract rules are one of the reasons that I hate these contract talks in the NBA every single year is that their contract rules are not rooted in reality. They're rooted in whatever the hell happened in the boardroom of an LA office like 5 years ago. And now we just have to deal with the consequences. Yeah. And it just feels like stupid things happen all the time, and then we complain about the stupid things, and then they overcorrect and a different stupid thing happens.
Well,
and I just wish if they're gonna, run I don't know. I just think it's dumb. I think it's dumb the way that this has to be subjective. Like, why not give a Supermax eligibility? Here's my rule: is a player is eligible for a Supermax when they have been with a team for 7 years. So that's what 2 contracts in anybody's say. So then, if a stupid team wants to sign somebody to a Supermax after they've been there for 7 years, then let that stupid team make a poor decision. Okay, but otherwise, it still encourages players to stay for 10 years on a team, which was the initial goal anyway.
To play devil's advocate to you, and I kind of think, I'll lay this out for you. If you're the Hornets, and now,
and I am,
and Kemba Walker is now eligible for the Supermax. If you don't offer him the Supermax, he's probably going to be likely to leave, because the only reason he would stay is because he wants to be paid by the team that he's helped bring to fruition, at least be somewhat prominent. And so if all these guys have that option of Supermax, now this team, Michael Jordan ownership crew, have to decide, do we let our player walk because he's not worth signing all this money to? Do we let him walk because he's not worth it? Or do we sign him back to at least let our fans have someone to root for? And by making these guys eligible and not eligible, at least you're giving it to a guy who's an All-NBA player instead of, a decent player holding us hostage and saying, I'm going to leave if you don't give me the money.
But if I'm a fan of a team that is, it makes sense. But I think like we're giving the owners an out instead of and the general managers an out instead of saying, do your job well or get the hell out of this job. Like, everybody else has to perform, but the general managers get training wheels because the contracts are lined up in a way that they can only do this if the media votes this person good enough. Like, I think that's an absurd situation where like KD doesn't get training wheels. Klay Thompson doesn't get training wheels. They have to go out there and beat the other team in front of them. But the general managers get to say, well, our hands are tied. That's the way the rules are. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And the other shitty thing about the media voting for this is it could, the same way I brought up that it could make Klay more apt to leave because he's not leaving as much money on the table. It might be really good for the Warriors in the sense that the difference in the luxury tax they'll have to pay now if they sign them to a max instead of that super max. The way the luxury tax works in the NBA, and I know this will frustrate you probably more, LJ, and I actually don't know all the details on it, but the more over a certain amount, like if you go this much over the cap, you pay this much in luxury tax. But if you go X amount over that, then now it multiplies double. So basically, if he were to sign that supermax, not only it would have tripled what the Warriors pay in luxury tax. Now they have plenty of money because they're building a brand new stadium and they're basically printing money out there in the Bay. But someone in that front office, the ownership was like, whew, now we can sign Klay for 190 instead of 220. And we don't even have to and we're not doing him wrong. We can say we're trying to pay him as much as possible, like they get painted as the good guys when really, so in the same way you talked about, a little bit of conspiracy or motive, could the Warriors go, hey, actually writers, we would like y'all not to vote him all NBA so we can sign him for cheaper? I don't know.
Absolutely.
I just think when all this stuff starts going around, there is some motives. I don't know if it's that crazy. I'm a conspiracy guy, so I probably always am more apt to believe in the ulterior motives, but I just think it's silly. I'm with you. I think it's weird that media members vote determines whether a guy can pay. And now after talking with you, I'm kind of with you. Take the training wheels off. If the Mavericks don't know what the hell they're doing, then get whoever's running the show out of the top. I mean, that's
quit enabling them.
Yeah.
We're enabling them. That's what if someone with dependency or whatever, don't enable them. Let their consequences.
Right.
Let them suffer the consequences of their actions, and they change or do something different or get fired or whatever.
Yeah. Just don't enable inadequate performance. If they're
that's right.
If I'm at my job and I'm not doing good, they're not going to put some training wheels on me and go, here, let's try to make you a little easier for you. They'll just get someone who can do it better.
I'd rather, because I feel like right now an NBA team is an investment to own one instead of a job. And I feel like I'd like it to be more of a job.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just my thought.
Speaking of jobs, a guy recently got one over the weekend and it kind of caused a little bit of a stir. The Art Browse, the former head coach at Baylor, got hired and took a job as the head coach of a Texas high school football team, the Mount Vernon team, which interestingly enough, for us recording here, we're from old Texarkana and we went to Pleasant Grove, and Mount Vernon is just a short 78 miles from Texarkana and played in our district actually throughout our high school years. And this caught some news. One, if you don't remember Art Browse, we'll get into a little bit, but he was caught up in a bit of a scandal at Baylor where there was a lot of domestic and sexual assault going on with a lot of his athletes. And there was whether or not reportedly that he knew about it and was covering them up and was even recruiting guys who had these histories of this type of thing. And it was kind of more about he put winning over the decency of players. And the thing was he got fired, or he got let go of Baylor, and he hasn't had a job since. And actually recently in 2017, the CFL Hamilton Tiger Cats tried to hire Browse as an offensive assistant. And after 12 hours of media outrage and sponsors threatening to pull their ads, they actually rescinded the offer and decided not to hire him because it wasn't worth people were upset about him getting the job. Yeah. And so in order to try to avoid that getting in the news cycle, Mount Vernon decided to announce his hiring on Friday night on the eve of Memorial Day weekend, on a holiday weekend, the night of graduation for their seniors, because they didn't want people to know they wanted it to stay out of the news cycle, because the way the world works nowadays, if the news cycle will just turn over one time, people forget about it. So they were kind of hoping by Monday morning we would forget about it. And personally, it didn't go unnoticed, not by me, by it got a lot of national attention by a lot of people. And I just want to make sure it didn't go unnoticed by us also, because personally, I was kind of disgusted by it. If I was from Mount Vernon, I'd be upset about it. And I think we might have some differing opinions here.
It's funny that you mentioned how they tried to do the dump, though, because I have never searched for Baylor on my phone. I've never searched for Art Briles on my phone, and I've never searched for Mount Vernon on my phone. However, I got 2 notifications for it. So they didn't hide anything.
Well, I don't think you can hide it. I don't think you can hide it.
Yeah.
They tried to hide it, and it's just, and it makes them look even worse.
Right. You can't wait till the newspaper's done printing. Yeah.
A brief rundown. Well, Dad, what were you thinking about it?
Well, I will say, as a person that I heard in interviews, I'd always liked Art Briles. I thought he was an offensive genius.
Say what you will, he's a very good coach. Very smart football coach.
He's a good football coach. And I will say that I know there's a couple of facts that I feel like I'm confident about. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. He did file a wrongful termination lawsuit against the university. The allegations were that he knew about some of these sexual assaults on women and helped keep them quiet so that his players could play, and that he didn't say things about people that they were recruiting or transferring that had questionable histories. And I know he was fired in May of 2016, and the independent law firm Pepper Grimes or something like
Pepper Hamilton, I think.
Pepper Hamilton, they concluded that they had concerns about the tone and culture within Baylor's football program as it relates to accountability. So the only thing I'm wondering, that tied up with the fact that he did file a wrongful termination lawsuit and they settled.
Yeah,
Baylor
he actually
him.
got paid $15 million he didn't just get fired. He got a buyout.
So that tells me that he wasn't completely in the wrong. It wasn't all his fault, but something went wrong.
That tells you that there's other people probably involved and that they were able to get
Or it tells you that it's hard to prove. It's hard to prove anything related to sexual assault.
It is.
Because, I mean, that's just unbelievably a hard thing to prove. And a settlement usually means we didn't want to fight this out in court because we can't guarantee a victory.
No doubt. It could. I want to say one other thing. Grant Taft. Do y'all remember that name? Grant Taft. Grant Taft was the coach at Baylor University for 31 years. He is a college football Hall of Fame member. Okay. I think he was instrumental in the hiring of Art Briles. And when Art Briles got hired is kind of when Baylor athletics went nuts. And so
there's a brand new stadium.
Somebody was throwing a lot of money in that deal. So there might have been enough blame to go around. But Grant Taft, whose credentials are pretty damn solid, said that he called Briles always forthright and stellar. And he was very happy that he is back in coaching young men. Grant Taft, whose opinion should count to some degree because of of what we know about him. So I don't know. I think there's some things that happened here that I'm not completely aware of. I told Tammy this. We were talking, would you want him to come to the Arkansas Razorbacks? If I was the AD of the Arkansas Razorbacks, I would want to sit down with Art Briles and look him right in the eye and ask him some questions and see how he answered back. But if I could come to an agreement and understand what he was saying, I could envision where I would hire him at my program. But I would have to talk to him and understand thoroughly what occurred at Baylor.
That private firm, the Pepper Hamilton thing, what they found was they said that at least 17 women reported being sexually assaulted by 19 football players while under Art Briles' watch. Now, that we don't know for sure if that's on Art Briles or not, but that happened. That was reported. And then one of the many other lawsuits alleged that there were 52 acts of rape, including 5 gang rapes during a 4-year period while Briles was coach. And while those numbers were never independently verified, another report lists 19 players involved in 17 instances. So there's a lot that happened. And I think at some point we talked about it with Rick Pitino when he's at Louisville and different like paying scandals where at some point you're the head of this ship. And either you didn't
completely agree with you,
either
Kevin.
You didn't know because you didn't want to know or whatever, but there's something going on. And there's a lot of guys he recruited where you can go back and look and I can pull some articles up for you that do more research, but there's guys that he recruited that had a history of had some sort of history, but he would look past that because they were good athletes. And then to know this stuff was going on, it's just, I don't know. It's just, it's tough to me to see him hired. If I was a parent at Mount Vernon, I would be a little nervous. I mean, I could see the allure. Yeah. I can see like your son's going to now be coached by one of the best offensive minds, I think, in football. I mean, he brought Baylor from nothing and brought them to prominence. They were in the national spotlight. So he's a great coach.
Yeah.
But they had the Mount Vernon officials said in a statement, we believe that he will be able to use his life experiences to teach our young people how to deal with hardships, grow through adversity, and develop strong character. Art Briles himself even said during the news release, you'll make no bigger impact on this world than when you shape the lives of young people. Art Briles, through his decision, has put a lot of people, a lot of young women through hardships and adversity and shaped a lot of lives in a negative way. And I just think now we're putting them right back above young people. I have my doubts.
But even younger people with less power. A high school girl is a lot less brave than a college girl. And I don't know. There's a deeper conversation to be had about when can you get forgiveness? What can you get forgiveness for? When can things like this blow over? Can things like this blow over? How do you right the ship? I was reading about this basketball player. I can't remember who, but was talking about the reason he didn't believe he was in the Hall of Fame was because of some, anti-gay, stuff that he said in around 2005 or something like that. And he recognized that he said some awful stuff and wishes he could take it back and has done everything he could to take it back. But that's why he believes he's not in the NBA Hall of Fame. And I think that there's like an interesting conversation to be had about that. I don't know that we're wise enough to come up with the answer, the three of us, although I think we're pretty wise. But it is like I agree that I feel like this is a bad hire, but I don't know what Art Briles could do to make me believe it was a good hire. Like, I don't know that he could do anything to make me trust him ever again. And I don't know that that's necessarily a good human quality to have in myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it does. And I think both of what you're saying are very valid. I mean, I can see people feeling like that. And I'm probably more than trying to argue the other side. I'm just still a little open because I don't feel like I understand exactly what happened at Baylor. And so you remember the Baylor basketball team.
Oh yeah, there was some
shit going on with them. So it wasn't just Briles and football. I think Baylor. I just think money was. Yeah. I think there was some bad stuff going on at Baylor for a little while. Period.
You're probably right. I mean, you're probably right.
And the same way you mentioned Taft, a guy that I really respect and I think is a good, everything I've seen of him seems like a good role model. And that's RG3, who was the quarterback at Baylor during Briles' time. And he's been adamant that he wanted Briles to get a job and he's happy Briles got a job and Briles is influential in his life. And he says nothing but great things about him. So I do think at some point you do have to weigh this. I just think there's no way Briles is innocent in all this. And I don't mind him having a job. I'm all for him getting work. I just don't know if he should be working over and shaping the lives of young men and women. I just don't know if that's necessarily the right word.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's a tougher question or a tougher answer than a question. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I've got a personal history with Mount Vernon that I flip off Mount Vernon every single time that I drive through it and have for I guess probably about 15 years, because, we did competitive theater in Texas, which is like one of the dumbest things that's like ever existed in concept and in practice. However, I found that like it really did give me a lot of drive to think of like my art as like also a competition and a skill and stuff like that. So, there's some good and some bad, but like one thing that really pissed me off is we were in district, doing our theater competition. And we got beat out by Mount Vernon, who did what I thought was a really BS show. It was a show about people having cancer and everybody was sad the whole time and they cried. And we did Thoroughly Modern Millie, which had all the glitz and glamour and it was fun and funny and exciting. Mm-hmm. So I was pissed at Mount Vernon for taking a spot at regionals. So finding out any news about Mount Vernon is always something that I like go in with like a little bit of caution because I just want bad things to happen to them. And I'm sure they're great people. I remember the show now and thinking it was probably a really good show and I just didn't have the context to understand it yet.
But by God, when LJ goes through Mount Vernon, a bird gets flipped.
They are getting the bird from sign to sign.
Well, LJ,
it's on the interstate and doesn't take long. So
it's Mount Vernon. We're not talking about Dallas here.
No, yeah, we're not exactly.
Well, LJ, I don't know if they will have any tickets to Mount Vernon, so maybe you won't even have to worry about it. But if you're wanting to go to a game other than a Mount Vernon game or any kind of event, or if you want to go see a band play some music, whatever you want to go do, let me tell you about our partners over here at SeatGeek. They hooking all the JPP listeners up over here. And the way SeatGeek works is You get on there, you look for your event, and they really take the hassle out of it for you. They let you they put on there, like they go through the whole internet and they put the prices on there, and they put the prices with where you're actually sitting, and they give you a red dot if that's a bad deal, if you're paying too much, or a yellow dot if it's an all right deal, or a green dot if you're getting a steal, like, front row seats to a Mount Vernon game or something, that you'll get that green dot. But they make it really easy. They're real good to use, and they just take the hassle out of it. And right now, if you go on the SeatGeek.com and put in the promo code ACAA, you can get $20 off your first purchase. So you can go catch the marching band for Mount Vernon. I don't know if they're on there or not, but you can get $20 off your first purchase at SeatGeek. Just put in the promo code ACAA. Life's an event. We have the tickets over at SeatGeek. So,
and beers might be cheaper at a Mount Vernon game because you got to buy them under the stands from one of the football players that's injured this week.
Yeah, I was about to say, they might be cheaper because you're buying them on the black market if you're getting them at a high school football game, or
you might could get like 6 or so rounds on this one. So.
This is we talked basketball earlier, and this question got brought up on Twitter. So we've done Colossians before, and this isn't going to quite be a Colossian, but it's kind of, we've been talking a bunch of NBA finals, and this is kind of NBA related. And a guy named Varun Shetty, he goes by @Varun, it's VARUN. He tweeted this out a question and started getting a bunch of play. And I just want to ask you guys. All right, LJ, I'll go with you first. You get 10 shots to make one NBA three-pointer.
Oh, God.
NBA three-pointer link. If you make one, you get $1 billion. However, if you don't make any, you go to a maximum security prison for 1 year. Do you take the 10 shots?
Wow.
I might have to talk to my financial advisor, but I do think that the answer for me very specifically is I do not touch a basketball with those stakes on the line. I think that's just got to be the right answer for me.
Pops.
God, it's hard to turn down though.
I really think I could make 1 out of 10.
You like
I
to
really
think so?
do. Yeah. I mean, I'd like to think I could make 1 out of 10. Now I haven't played a lot of basketball lately. I would want a little bit of time, a little bit of practice, but I would surely know this was coming up, right? Or is this just...
No. You get handed a basketball, say $1 million.
If I'm walking down the street
right now, right now, we're in a gym and I hand you the basketball. Right now, would you take the basketball and take 10 shots?
Right now, 1 year in a maximum security prison? No, I probably,
it's 1 year.
Wouldn't. I don't know though. No, bad things happen in there.
Surely you can hit 1-3 though. Just one wide open.
Kevin, the other day I went out there. I could hit a free throw. You know how you always shoot? You shoot for teams or whatever. I can hit a free throw, right? I got out there. I've got a line painted on my driveway. You've been on my driveway. Yeah. You see it. And I shot free throws. I shot 10. I warmed up, probably shot about 5, whatever. And then I shot 10. I shot 30%. I shot 30%, 3 out of 10. I mean, I don't play basketball anymore. So, I mean, there's a little bit of muscle memory and form you need to have. I don't know if I'd give up a year in a maximum security prison where they might call me Boopsy or something.
Well, and that's also the question. Once you get into the maximum security prison, do they get to know why you're in? Like, do they know you're in because you just get like a 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to come up with a good story.
I think there's no way I'm not. I don't know if I'd hit it. I like to think I could give me 10 shots. I could make one of them and then go to prison for 1 year if I didn't. I don't know, for $1 billion.
$1 billion's a lot of money.
So, it's funny. I feel like
I'm doing it.
Like part of this, I don't know whether Kevin's feeling froggish because he thinks he's better at basketball than we think we are, or if it's because he has no responsibilities and nobody he has to answer to. Like if I made that decision and was wrong, my life is not going to go well afterwards. Like I don't get to just like reset in a year. But
here's the only thing. Well, go ahead.
Kevin, LJ, you may remember, Kevin had a little bit of an outside shot back in the day. Thank God, because he's taller than shit, so he had to shoot from outside. I mean, you've grown a little. You've grown a little since then. I mean, up and not out. You were the round mound of the 3-point shot at that point, I think.
So the question I have on this, though, Dad, is say you decide you want to do it. What happens? You miss the first 5 3-pointers, all of a sudden you're 0 for 5, and you got 5 left. Like the pressure you're going to start feeling. Then you go 0 for 7, 0 for 8. Oh my God. I think I would crumble. I might would crumble.
You just got to
keep throwing me that ball back.
Yep.
Throw me the ball back. Let me take that shot. Take that shot.
You just got to, in your head, have
times.
made every single one of them. Like, you just can't let yourself know that you missed it. You know, you just got to block that out. Keep shooting.
You just got to keep firing them.
Yep.
So, Kevin, where are you going to shoot from?
Oh, good question.
Where are you going to take, where on the 3-point line are you going to shoot from?
That's a great question.
Top, side, corner?
The corner three is always, the good shot, but I think I would probably shoot on not straight ahead. I don't like the straight ahead three, probably on the wing a little bit, over on the right wing.
I want as much backboard as I can get my perspective on. That's what I want.
Yeah. Well, LJ's like, rest in peace. LJ's like Philip Seymour Hoffman, just rain dance, and he's just hoping he can get one off the glass.
Yep.
Hey, that's actually pretty smart of 32, though. That does give you an advantage dead on.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would be like you, LJ, top of the key or the wing. And I would take the left wing. I think take the left wing is probably where I would shoot from.
But you wouldn't do it. You wouldn't do it.
No.
I don't know. I'm thinking about it, but I don't think I would. I don't know. And LJ, you're no for sure.
No.
Right? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
I'm yes. Y'all are going to have to find a third person for a year when I'm in maximum security prison because I can't make an NBA 3, but I'm taking the shot.
Or we quit our jobs. Podcast.
Yeah, we quit. Yeah.
True.
We be Kevin's helpers for the rest of the day, rest of our lives. Yeah. Well, what you need, Mr. Kevin? You need some more what is that? Pizza rolls? You need some more pizza rolls?
I need a plate of pizza rolls and some beer. If you could just grab that over.
I would happily.
I'll be right back. Right back with it.
Speaking of beer, what I also saw this going around on Twitter. A bunch of people were weighing in on this one, and I couldn't. I was in my head thinking about it all day on Saturday. Yeah, maybe this says something about me. I don't know. But what is the best beer? LJ, I know you thought about it. And just an example for anyone out there, not necessarily a brand of beer, like I know Pops, if he's out there at the river with the Flanagans, it's a Miller Lite. But what is the best beer as far as, is it a beer on the lake? Is it a beer on the river? Is it a beer after mowing? So LJ, I'll just throw over to you.
I totally misunderstood your question. I was thinking, what's the best beer on the lake? And also, what's the best beer after mowing? Like, I had different answers for those.
Oh, wow. Well, lay it on us.
Well, I mean, do tell. I'd like to hear. What is it?
Well, no. Let me try to answer the question first, and we can come back to that. I think the best beer is probably a shower beer after a hard day's work. I think that's the answer.
A shower beer is good.
Yeah. Not much like a shower beer.
Explain. Are you having a beer in the shower?
Absolutely.
Or right after
you're getting ready. You're getting ready to go take a shower. You take a beer with you to the shower, and you pop it open, and you get it, and you kind of put it on the side or something where you can just take a drink while you're showering. Or something about when that hot water's on you, that cold beer. I think though a little bit, LJ, about a shower beer to me. See, you mentioned it after a hard day's work. I think the shower beer is more nostalgic to me because it's like when I had shower beers, it'd be all right. It's 9:00. Friday night, we're getting ready to go out. Let me go get my shower on. And that first beer is like, here we go. We're getting ready for a fun night. And so every shower beer kind of makes you, it's like that clean slate. And now I'm cleaning my body and I'm getting that first beer of a good night here. We're getting ready.
Your weekend mistakes don't count anymore. Yep.
So, but, LJ, did you have more? I mean, it sounds like you have a brand for each different event that you're doing.
Well, no. Well, so like my general beer, is probably like an old standard, like an old style, some like pretty generic American beer, a light beer, something like that. I don't know. But like my beer with friends is like an IPA usually. And then like a beer at the river is usually like some sort of Mexican beer. Like I just had this one called Cusqueña that I really liked, but like some sort of like golden looking Mexican beers, like the water sports beer. And that's kind of where I went with it. But like after mowing a lawn, you don't want an IPA in my opinion. You want a Miller or PBR or something like that. That's the direction I took your question.
There is something about that, you just got done working. You feel like you accomplished something. You got the yard mowed or whatever, weeded to the edge, whatever. And then you go over to the garage, to the beer gerator, and you get just a cold beer. That's a good one. That is a good one. Dad, what say you? I want to hear some input from you because you got some experience on me and L.
Yeah.
Out of all the suggestions that you passed out, I'll take a beer on the water. I like a beer at the lake, a beer on the river, in the sunshine, and it just goes down good. I know one time I was out in my boat. riding around, and it was over the whole day. But we got back, and Tammy was helping me throw the empties away. And when we got to double digits, and I had been the only one in the boat, it was like, whoa, wow, those beers were tasting good out on the water. But now, and some people probably would look. I mean, I was fine. I mean, I wasn't, but because you drink them over the course of the day, it's still probably not
and
good.
Sweat and
probably not good.
I wasn't drunk.
I mean, I really don't think I was, but I mean, we did drink more than, or there was, it was double digits. So beer on the water is
beer on
my
a beach
favorite.
too.
Beer,
I mean,
beer on a beach.
Can we narrow
around water?
Pops, can we
beer
narrow this?
Water.
I would love to narrow this. So let me throw out a couple options. Rock bar, fishing, floating in an inner tube. Which is better? Which is a better beer?
Woo. Oh, do I have to pick?
Yes, you do.
Those are all really good.
Oh, yes. Just yes is my
yes. My answer is yes. If you say, I think probably, I think I'd probably go Rock Bar. I'd probably go Rock Bar. Rock Bar beer is
it's hard
pretty
to beat.
damn
It's
good.
hard to
A pool beer is pretty good too.
I
A day out on the pool. I think I'd rather be out at the lake or something. But
and I don't think you can fish without drinking beer, right? You just literally
No,
can't.
I'm pretty sure
fish.
there's police for that, right? That's what the license.
That's what a game warden's for. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be discreet about it. That's right. I forgot. Yeah.
What about though? I saw this one getting thrown around, like a game beer when you're at a game. I know they're expensive, but like at a baseball game or at a football game or something like that beer while you're out there. Is that up there at all to you?
That's like that's a mid-tier beer. I'd much rather have a fridge beer than a game beer.
What about, so this one is one that, Dad, we're going to have to get your intake on because I don't think me and LJ have experienced these beers. One is a beer after or during snow skiing. So like a good day of skiing out on the mountains is a beer. Yeah. I could see a beer being really good then.
That sounds like a good idea. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's really good because when you're snow skiing, you can even just put one in your pocket and it stays cold. You know, it's winter beer is pretty good because you just stick that 30 pack in the back of your truck. Don't need an ice chest, nothing, man. It's good. It's good. Right, but then, let me address the game beer real quick.
Okay.
I'm not into a game beer because one, you got to crawl out and over all those people and crawl back in with a full beer that costs you at least $10. And then you're going to have to crawl over them again to go take a leak. Yep. I just probably.
Now you can save on that beer if you buy your tickets from SeatGeek and put in the promo code ACAA, $20 off.
Well, true that. Or you could get double the hot dogs.
I would like those two better. Yeah.
But all right, Dad, and here's one. This one might, I'm interested to see your intake on this. So what about it's noon, hot day. You're at like some sort, I don't know if it's an amusement park, but you're somewhere where you got a bunch of the young kids with you. You got all the young kiddos and we're young. You're having to keep up with us. You and Mom are like, we're just being little asses and we want you to carry us and blah, blah, blah. And now you get a little break and you get a second to just get a tall, cold beer, maybe with lunch after you've been dealing with us all morning. I feel like that's got to be a pretty good beer.
Yeah. That might be my second one of the day because, hey, I'm going to take the edge off a little bit. I need to,
there was a Bloody Mary when he started the day.
If I knew I was going to have all you kids all day, you think I'm taking a shot in the morning. What are you talking about?
But here's the answer though. Here's the answer. The best beer I have.
Okay.
Number 2 is free beer. Free beer is number 2.
Absolutely. I mean, it's on the list.
And number 1 is the next beer. The next beer is always the best beer. It's always the best beer.
Yeah.
That next one's always great.
That last beer is pretty good too.
I heard or someone else's beer.
I was going to say, I heard a good phrase. Y'all remember Mr. Bobby's dad?
Yeah. He
would, at the pecan farm, we were out there one day or something. He said, Lifford, you're a good boy. I'd let you drink my next to last beer.
That's a hell of a compliment. That's a hell of a compliment.
Yeah. But I'd give you my next to last beer.
All right. Well, something that goes real well with when you're out at the river listening, when Dad's out on the boat listening to or drinking some beer, he's probably listening to music. And I know you spent a weekend out doing some Memorial Day festivities. Did anything good? Were you listening to anything good this weekend?
Oh, I was listening to some great stuff, of course.
Can you whittle it down
all kind
to
of
us?
Blends together. Well, the last thing we listened to, but it was back up on the porch. So first off, little AC/DC, Back in Black.
Okay.
We just listened to some of that.
Right.
And that's good stuff on the water. Just turn it up a little bit. And I don't know. It was a great tune. And then Tammy has really been into Post Malone. And I do like Post Malone.
Yeah.
Congratulations. And so that was probably kind of the song of the weekend. She just really loves that song. Yeah. And so Post Malone, congratulations. Yeah. And AC/DC.
Same thing, basically.
This week. I can get,
well.
I can get behind all that. What we're listening to this week, it's actually, I started by watching and then I've kind of listened to some more recently, and rest in peace to Avicii, but I watched the documentary on Netflix. It's like True Stories of Avicii, and it talks about his life and his rise to fame and kind of how when he was a DJ, when he first started, it wasn't really DJs that were stars, and it just kind of the way it went about and how really he was a shy guy and didn't want to be the big star that he was, and it kind of overwhelmed him and he worked himself maybe to death a little bit. It's a really, really the dude is so talented. I don't think I realized how talented he was because you think of it as someone who's just building stuff on the computer, but the way he can see music as a full picture, like when he hears one thing, he can hear a vocal. So he tells this guy, this is how I need you to do it. And then that guy gets in there and Avicii is just genius. And then the music he made, I was listening to it all the past 2 days. It's really good music. So that's who's been on and if you have time, the documentary on Netflix is about an hour and a half. It's really good. True Stories of Avicii. Worth your time.
Yeah, fair enough.
LJ, what do I feel like the way you were talking before we got on we started recording, you had something interesting for what we're listening to this week.
Well, okay. So I've been listening to the Verve's Bittersweet Symphony, which you guys all know. It's a great song. And I think that if you've ever enjoyed this song, you should give it a few listens this weekend too, because the Rolling Stones have owned 100% of the rights to that song up until 1 month ago. We found out just a couple days ago from Richard Ashcroft, the lead man from the Verve. When he won an award, he announced that he finally had the rights to that song for the first time ever, meaning that if you watch the music video on YouTube, he actually gets paid. And if you listen to it on Spotify, he actually gets paid for the first time for one of the greatest songs, I think, in the last 20 years. So, I think it's just a really cool story that he finally got the rights back from the Stones. How
did the Stones get the right, LJ? What was up with that?
I feel like we might have talked about this song in particular in Hannah's free samples game early in the podcast.
I know we did. I know we've talked about it before.
So that string bit in that song, is from a cover of a Rolling Stones song that an orchestra did for a Rolling Stones album. And so they went to the Rolling Stones and said, hey, can we use this for a song? We've got this really great song that we want to use the song for. And they said, okay, you can have 50% of the rights if you use only 4 notes from the song. And they were like, deal. Sounds great. Deal. And they ended up using, if you can imagine the string part in that song, they ended up using quite a bit more than 4 notes. And so when the Stones heard it for the first time, they said, we're taking all the money. We get 100% of the rights. You violated our contract. And so now you can either pull this song from the radio or you can give up all the money from it. So the Verve putting out the biggest song of their entire careers ever in the history of their careers, and maybe one of the biggest songs in all of the 1990s, they're not going to pull that off. That's like all of their future, right? If nobody's hearing this song, this great song by them, people aren't going to concerts and stuff like that. So they ended up having to keep playing the song. And every time you heard it, Keith Richards and Mick Jagger got another buck, which, not to say that they didn't deserve it. It's kind of a dicey situation. They did use more than they said they would, but it is nice to know that the geniuses behind that song are finally getting paid for it. And so, I think
it's a good
really
time.
Cool news.
It's a good time to play it. If you hadn't heard it in a while, it'd be a good time to fire it up, huh?
Agreed.
Good song. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's neat. I had no idea.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah.
You know, LJ always going to come out with something. You never know what he's going to pull.
You never know.
Some ridiculousness.
All right. Before we head out, I got to get a prediction. So the Stanley Cup Finals is going on, and the NBA Finals are going on.
Right.
We'll start with Stanley Cup. We got the St. Louis Blues playing the Boston Bruins, because poor Boston fans, it's been a while. It's been like a couple months since they've had
I hate that they haven't had a parade. So
yeah, they need a reason to throw a parade. So I'll toss to you. We'll go NHL first, and let me get my pen out so I can write down what we say here. But Bruins, Blues, LJ, what you got? Who wins and how many games?
So, St. Louis is a bit of a rival to Chicago in basically every sport that they both play
Pretty much,
in. And so part of me hates the Blues, and they also knocked out the Stars. So another part of me hates the Blues. However, Boston is the worst. I don't The Red Sox need to never win another game. The Patriots need to never win another game. And the Bruins need to never win another game. And I'd be a pretty happy camper about that. Plus, I do think this is like a serious, like Canadians must be overjoyed right now because the Raptors have made the playoffs. And the St. Louis Blues is one of the most Canadian teams in the NHL. They've got 19 Canadians and 4 Americans, as opposed to the Bruins who have 14 Americans and whatever whatever the number is, Canadians. So they're pretty well, not by team, but by people, they're pretty well represented in the Stanley Cup final. And then by team, they're represented in the NBA finals. So I'm going with an all Canadian championship this coming, these finals. And I'm going with the Blues and the Raptors. That's what I'm doing.
Blues and how many games? Or do we want to go games or just go Blues Raptors?
Well, seeing as how it's tied right now, nothing's going to be spoiled for me. I do think we'll just call it 6 games just to put a number by it, but I have no idea. And then for the NBA, I'll take it 7.
All right. I hope you're right that the finals go 7.
Yeah, I do too.
Pops, what do you got? Blue or you got hockey, and then we'll go NBA.
Yeah, I'll go hockey. So I'm gonna take St. Louis.
Right.
I'm gonna take St. Louis. Don't have a lot of reasons behind it, but I'm gonna take St. Louis, and I'm gonna take what I think is the obvious choice in the NBA. So Golden State. I think Golden State's gonna win it. I think they're gonna win it I think that Toronto's gonna get a couple of games. So I have to make a prediction. St. Louis in 6. I'll go with the same thing LJ did, and I'm gonna say Golden State in 6.
All right, 6. Okay, 6 is that's a little more than a gentleman's sweep. That's a series.
It's a series.
For hockey, I'm going to go with, I would normally, kind of like LJ said, they're not a rival to my team as much, but they did knock out the Stars. And if I have a team in hockey, it'd be the Stars. So I kind of was a little salty with the Blues. But also, as LJ lamented, I don't need to see any more Boston teams win any more championships. I'll be fine if they don't win anymore. So I'm rooting for the Blues. But for another reason, it's the first time they've ever made the finals, the Stanley Cup finals. So that's cool. And for their fans and stuff. And also, I saw the St. Louis Blues team surprised all their employees by sending them all to Boston for the first game.
Whoa, that's cool.
For free. And get this, the Blues sold out their arena for game 1, and game 1 is in Boston. So the fans packed out the arena.
That's amazing.
There's a video, I'll put it on our show notes, of them going crazy after the first goal. I saw right as we were getting ready to start recording.
That's something else.
So those fans,
cool.
Those fans are cool. It looks like a cool organization, and they've never been to the finals. Let's go. We're going to go Blues in 4. We're going to sweep them.
Blues in 4.
Hey, they've been
Blues
killing
in
at these
4.
playoffs, so that's possible.
Blues in 4, and then, yeah, there's not much, you don't need much analysis from me. Warriors are just really good. Warriors in 5. I mean,
just really good.
They're just really good. It's kind of like LJ when he takes his notes. Just the best team's going to win. But Dad, I thought you might find this interesting. Did you know, and LJ, you'll find this too, Danny Green, who is now playing for the Raptors, he was part of that Kawhi Leonard trade. He helped extend the mind-blowing Shaq final streak, which is in 36 straight NBA finals. In the last 36 NBA finals, they've included at least one player who has played with Shaquille O'Neal.
Whoa.
Really? The streak goes all the way back. The last year that a finals was played without Shaquille O'Neal was the 82-83 when the 76ers played with Julius Erving and Moses Malone. And the streak
Neither have ever played with Shaq.
The streak started the following year when the Celtics beat the Lakers in the finals. Greg Kite, who later played with Shaq for 2 years in Orlando, was on Boston's team. And Byron Scott, who was a Los Angeles Laker, played 1 season with Shaq after his move to the Lakers. But so
what year did you say was the first year? Say it again.
The 83-84 year would have been the first year.
And then let me see.
Ever since he did play for, I think, 6 NBA teams. But since, at least one player that's played with him.
He started playing in the NBA in 92. So this streak has been alive from 10 years before he started playing to what are we at? 8 years after he played. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow. And a lot of time, for a while, it was being carried there by LeBron because he played with LeBron. And so LeBron had made whatever it was, like 8 straight finals. And this year it looked like it was going to break, but nope. Danny Green was drafted by Cleveland when Shaq was on Cleveland. So the streak lives on for one more year at least.
Unbelievable.
Wow. Very cool.
Wow.
All right. That'll do it for another week of the Just Press Play pod. We appreciate you joining in with us. If you have any thoughts or want to share anything with us, you can find us on Facebook or Twitter on our website at justpressplaypod.com. Leave us a comment. We'll put some show notes in there. We'll have some good ones for this week. And make sure if you're going to any games, check on SeatGeek and put in the promo code ACC. ACAA.
ACAA. Yeah.
Just put in the promo. You can try the other one, but I don't think it works. If you want to make sure to get the $20, put in the promo code ACAA and get $20 off your first ticket.
If you've got a bookie, bet against the Blues because we were unanimous. I'm just throwing that out there.
Well, I was about to say we're unanimous both, but no, we got LJ with Raptors and 7, so never mind. Yeah, just bet against the Blues. Hit MyBookie up, put in the promo code JPP, and you'll get 50% off and get extra on your deposit. So, and bet definitely Bruins because we're all wrong.
It's been decided. It is known.
That's right. We KO'd them.
All right, that'll do it for another week, guys. I will catch you on the flip side.
Catch you on the flippity flip.
Zippity zip. Peace.
Okay, go down. Ready. Remember that book? That was one of my favorite Dr. Seuss books. Go down.
I don't know if I remember.
Was it maybe the diggiest dog?
The diggingest dog. Yeah.
There was the diggiest. He was the diggiest dog.
I thought it was the diggingest. Am I wrong?
I don't think there was an N, not the diggingest. It was like the diggiest. The diggiest dog. DIGGIEST. The diggiest dog.
This is important not to look up right this second, I think.
I'll put a buck on it.
Okay. You want it?
Yeah, we'll put a buck on it. We'll put a shot of Malort.
Oh, boy. All right. Here, let me do a little screen share for you real quick.
Uh-oh. Sounds like he's right.
Sounds like he's right. I know, yeah. He wouldn't do that if I was right.
No, he would not.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't even know how to.
So since I lost, I have to take the shot.
I think so, yeah. Do you still have Tony's Malort?
I do, actually, yes. I do.
Well, you might have to, when you give it to him.
I'm surprised that hasn't got drank yet.
Well, I'm not sure if I've seen Tony. The diggy. I still don't know if I believe that.
That is the image. Are you Berenstein Bearsing over here? Is that what's happening? The Mandela effect?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You don't know the Mandela effect? Oh my God. Okay, that might be a topic we'll see if we have time for it this week.
All right. It is the diggingest. It's the diggingest dog. Gosh dang it. I think they've changed it. I think they changed it since back in the day.
Okay.
I don't think they did.
We're going to have to talk about the Mandela effect. So, spell Berenstein Bears. Like, the Berenstein Bears?
Berenstein. Berenstein?
It's actually... You're exactly right, except it's STAIN, the Berenstain Bears.
Okay, all right.
So it's not exactly right.
So I'm exactly right, except I misspelled it. Is what you're saying.
Okay, but can you see that written? Like, I feel like I could see it written as Berenstein Bears with an EIN. I mean,
yeah, me too. I feel like I can see it in my head.
Clear as day. Except if you look it up, and even if you go and pull, I'm sure there's somewhere we've got some Berenstein Bears books that you could pull out, and they definitely have an AIN. And so some people, the smart people, believe that we just probably assumed that it was a common, last name spelling for the end of their name. But some people assumed that we are in an alternate universe where they have messed up one of the details. And so they have gone back and changed a lot of things. And what they missed was renaming the Berenstein Bears to what it was in our universe, which is called the Mandela effect. Because a lot of people believe that Mandela died in prison in South Africa during apartheid. And there's all sorts of issues of people, like a mass group of people believing that something was exactly this way. They remember it very vividly from their childhood. And it turns out that it must have been another way. Such as, I think it's Sinbad being in a movie called Shazam instead of Shaq being in a movie called Kazam. Or maybe it's the other way around, but let me look it up.
Well, it's like Dr. Seuss, the diggiest dog. I'm telling you, they're changing it all the time.
Yeah, and so that's the thing. Yeah, so you're
I can see it. I can almost see it. Yeah, the title of that Dr. Seuss book, The Diggiest Dog, and you clearly just showed me that the alternate universe has come in and changed it to now the diggingest dog.
Right. Somehow everybody else is wrong and you're right.
And I'm right.
Yeah. And that's with the Berenstain Bears. Like, why didn't we call it the Berenstain Bears? Like, that's always the argument. Is like, if we would have known it, if it would have been spelled that way, we would have said it that way. And so yeah, we're in an alternate universe where for some reason they decided to mess up the spellings of things. So.
Well, we talked about before on the pod that as Dad brought up, our memory's not always the best. You know, things that we are
Absolutely
certain to be true.
Yeah.
What pod was that? Was that in the Free Brian Williams one?
Free Brian Williams by who? Malcolm Gladwell. Season 4 of Revisionist History is coming out in June, by the way.
Oh boy. We have a whole set of topics to talk about.
I know, all good new stuff.
So you're telling me, LJ, it's just whenever I'm wrong, though, whenever I think I'm right, but I'm wrong, I can just claim that the Mandela effect and that everyone else is actually wrong.
But I think
that sounds about how I usually go about my life.
The thing is, you got to vividly be able to picture the fact that you were right, and then usually it helps to be able to find 2 or 3 people that agree with you. And then, Mandela effect, that's all you got to say, and everybody's going to be like,
Usually I'm on the limb by myself. I can't always find people to agree with my dumb takes.
Then you just call that wrong. That's all you get. Sorry. So, but I get $1, I think, is that?
That's
the Malort shot. I said a Malort shot.
Yeah, I have to take the shot. Shot of Malort. Because
I didn't earn